The billionaire is astonished when a street kid claims he discovered something in his coffee. Martin Hayes sat in the swanky café, the sound of clinking cups mingling with smooth jazz. The aroma of artisanal coffee filled the air. He watched the city bustle outside, a world of luxury reflecting his own. Just as he took a sip, savoring the warmth of his dark roast, a sudden ruckus pierced his morning tranquility. A scruffy boy, probably no older than 10, burst through the door like a little whirlwind. His clothes were tattered and his hair stuck out in wild directions, but his eyes shimmered with an unpredictable spark. "Hey, you, stop right there!" the boy yelled, his voice a mix of excitement and urgency as he darted toward Martin's table. The café fell silent. Heads turned. Who was this child, storming into a place filled with the city's elite? Martin frowned, annoyance creeping in. He was about to wave the boy away when the kid thrust his hand forward, palm up. "I found something in your coffee." The boy was practically vibrating. "What are you talking about?" Martin scoffed, shaking his head. "Get lost, kid." But there was something in the boy's gaze that made him pause. There was raw energy, a hint of truth that demanded attention. "Please, you have to see this," Elijah, as he had later introduced himself, insisted. He opened his hand slowly, revealing a tarnished ancient coin that glinted like a forgotten treasure in the morning light. It looked like something straight out of a history book. Intricate designs swirling across its surface, and a faded symbol that Martin couldn't quite make out. It was mesmerizing, yet intimidating. "What the?" Martin's voice softened, curiosity nudging aside his skepticism. The café was now a silent theater, the audience leaning in, intrigue weaving through the air. Martin leaned closer, heart racing. Could this somehow be real? He couldn't allow himself to hope, but the sensation was electric. Elijah, reading Martin's reaction like a well-worn book, smiled slyly. "It's special, I swear, worth a fortune." He glanced around as if sensing unseen danger. "I found it on the street. You may not care, but someone else might." In a bad way. Martin laughed nervously, but a knot tightened in his chest. The moment felt strange. It was more than a coin. It was a bridge, across worlds, across experiences. Martin felt a flicker of his own forgotten boyhood, a distant memory of innocence wrapped in warmth, before wealth washed it away. Just then a shadow passed by the window. A figure lingered, eyes locked onto them, but chill crept up Martin's spine. He was no stranger to predators. Money drew them in like moths to a flame. Who was this new player in their unexpected game? "Just hold on to that for a minute," Martin told Elijah, urgency in his tone. But his mind was racing. The encounter felt surreal, almost fateful. As the lines between their lives intertwined, both would discover the weight of their own pasts, not knowing the danger lurking just beyond the café's polished glass. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact." Martin's heart raced as he watched Elijah's face, the strange thrill of the moment crackling in the air. Just when he thought the boy would offer more, chaos erupted outside. The shadow he'd seen earlier burst through the café doors, an imposing figure shrouded in a long black coat. His face was obscured by the brim of a dark hat that cast a shadow over his eyes. Elijah shrank back, clutching the coin like it was a life preserver. "Oh no, it's him," he whispered, fear quaking in his voice. "Who is that?" Martin asked, but his own voice felt distant, lost in the sea of confusion. The café patrons shifted in their seats. Some gasped, others murmured. eyes darting like moths caught in a flame. Then, the stranger strode forward, his movements deliberate and unnerving, cutting through the tension like a knife. He leaned on Martin's table, his voice low and menacing. "You have something that belongs to me." Martin felt the knot in his stomach tighten. "What are you talking about?" Elijah stepped back, panic written all over his face. "Run! He'll take the coin. You don't know what it means." Confusion and dread swirled in Martin's mind. This was more than just a coin, wasn't it? The man's intensity sent an icy shiver down his spine. "I don't have anything that belongs to you," he repeated, trying to sound brave, but it came out hollow. The stranger lifted his head slightly, a glimmer in his eyes that suggested deep knowledge and danger. "That coin holds a secret, and you, my friend, have unknowingly stepped into a game much larger than yourself." Martin felt the walls closing in. "What are you talking about?" Without warning, the man stepped back and pulled something out of his pocket. A small device, shiny and cold. He pressed a button, and suddenly the air thickened, an electric charge buzzing throughout the café. Martin's skin prickled. People around him gasped as the lights flickered and the buzzing intensified. Then the whole café plunged into darkness. Panic erupted. Chairs scraped across the floor. People shouted. Martin could barely hear Elijah whimpering nearby. "Stay calm. Everyone stay calm," a barista yelled. But nobody was listening. The frantic energy surged. Martin felt disoriented, unable to see, unable to think clearly. Suddenly, a flash illuminated the room. Martin glanced up, forehead drenched in sweat. The dark figure was still there, moving through the chaos, weaving like a ghost. The lights flickered back on, and then, just like that, they failed again. And in that brief glimpse of light, chaos gave way to an unimaginable image. Martin saw Elijah, a determined glint in his eye, rising against the confusion. But it wasn't just Elijah anymore. Martin's breath caught. There was something off, something far darker. About the boy. "Get back," Elijah shouted, but it was the words of a different person. Nobody would have expected what came next. "I'm tired of pretending," the boy declared, his voice shifting, deepening, transforming. "You were never meant to have that coin, Martin." Martin felt ice in his veins. "What are you saying?" he gasped. That boy, this street urchin, was no ordinary child. Suddenly, Elijah brandished the coin like a weapon, revealing a hidden compartment within it. It opened with a soft click, and a burst of blue light enveloped the café, bringing everyone to their knees. Elijah's eyes glinted not with innocence, but something far more terrifying. "Welcome to the game," he sneered, as the crowd fell silent, a fragile, breathless moment. Before everything changed forever. What had he gotten into? What secrets lay hidden beneath this boy's facade? Would he survive the storm brewing from his innocent sip of coffee? Elijah's sneer sent chills down Martin's spine. The café was frozen in that electric moment, the hush alive with fear. But before Martin could process what was happening, everything shifted again. The walls trembled, a low rumble vibrating through the floor. All eyes turned to the windows, where the glass shivered as if something immense was approaching. "What did you just do?" Martin shouted, his voice barely cutting through the tension. Elijah didn't answer. Instead, he plunged his hand deeper into the coin's compartment. A sudden flash cracked through the room, blinding everyone. Martin squinted, holding his breath, heart pounding. The light revealed a swirling portal swirling in the center of the café, drawing in air from every side. Patrons gasped, some screaming. The barista dropped her coffee pot, and it shattered on the floor. Then, without warning, the ground shook, and a gust of wind slammed through the café, knocking chairs over, sending people tumbling back. Martin stumbled, grasping the table to keep himself steady. He blinked hard. What was happening? The panic radiating from Elijah was contagious. "Get inside, now," Elijah yelled, motioning toward the chaotic whirlpool. "What?" Martin gasped. His instincts screamed to flee. But Elijah's eyes held a spark of something. Fear, desperation, even hope. "Trust me," the boy's voice was sharp against the noise. "We have to go before it's too late." Martin hesitated. Trust a street kid? It felt absurd. But this was no ordinary street kid. The energy in the room shifted again, anxiety swirling as patrons scrambled to escape. And Martin felt a pull, something too strong to ignore. He lunged forward, ready to dive into unknown chaos. But just as he reached for Elijah, something unexpected happened. The coin in Elijah's hand flickered violently, and a blinding light erupted again, bathing the café in searing brilliance. A shadow surged through the light, collapsing into form, and for a split second, everything stood still. When the light dimmed, the café was transformed. The atmosphere was thick, suffocating. The patrons? Gone. The café, now dark and ominous. Martin blinked in disbelief. Elijah stood tall, but he was different. His posture held an unearthly confidence, power crackling in the air around him. "Welcome," he declared, but it was no longer a child's voice. It held the authority of a king. A spark of recognition flickered in Martin's mind, like a half-forgotten dream. "Long have I searched for you." "Me?" Martin stammered, breathless. "What do you mean?" But before Elijah could respond, the man in the black coat reappeared, shock twisting his features. Martin's heart raced. Who was he? Why did he look so torn? "You shouldn't have done this," he warned, casting a sidelong glance at Elijah, who merely smirked. Suddenly, the stranger lunged, and in that instant, Martin saw a storm brewing behind Elijah's eyes, something darker than the café's shadows. "You will regret crossing me," the man growled, but Elijah just chuckled, unfazed. "I'm not the one who should be afraid," Elijah replied, the boyish charm fading into something fierce and chilling. He turned to Martin. "It's not just about the coin. It never was." "What is happening?" Martin's voice cracked. "What's the truth?" "It's time for you to know," Elijah said, and in the next breath, the room flickered again. A surge of energy shot through Martin, as visions flashed before him, snippets of forgotten memories, of a betrayal and a legacy intertwined with darkness. Faces and names he never recognized now clawed at his mind, a family torn apart, a life hidden beneath layers of lies. The café spiraled away, leaving him breathless and lost. "Wake up," Elijah said, his voice echoing, rippling through reality. And then, everything shattered. Martin gasped, struggling to steady himself, surrounded by chaos. The real game was just beginning, but the stakes, they were higher than he could have ever imagined. Questions coursed through his mind. Who was Elijah really? What secrets did the coin hide? And why did it all lead back to him? In that moment, he realized with icy clarity, nothing would ever be the same again. Martin's heart raced in his chest, the pulse pounding against his ribcage like a caged animal. The café seemed to pulse with electric energy, as if the shadows were alive, pulling him deeper into a nightmare. Elijah stood before him, transformed, radiating a power that twisted the very air around them. "Welcome," Elijah echoed, his voice a booming authority. "Long have I searched for you." "Search for me?" Martin's confusion cut through the chaos. Nothing made sense anymore. Everything was slipping through his fingers like sand. "Yes, you." Elijah's eyes glimmered with an unsettling intensity. "The coin, the portal, it's all tied to you, to your history." Before Martin could respond, the stranger in the black coat, who had been lurking at the edges, charged forward. "You don't understand what you're playing with," he shouted, fury rippling through his voice. "You're meddling in forces far beyond your comprehension." Martin blinked, the weight of those words crashing into him. What does that even mean? He felt like the floor had dropped away, leaving him hanging over a dark abyss. The stranger sneered. "That boy, he's not what you think." In that instant, Elijah's expression darkened. "You shouldn't have followed me," he hissed, as if the stranger had crossed an unspoken line. Suddenly, the café erupted in chaos once again. The lights flickered violently, illuminating the scene in sudden bursts. Martin caught fleeting glimpses of frightened faces, people clutching each other, panic rising like steam in a kettle about to boil over. Then the stranger lunged for Elijah. Desperation fueled his movements. "You're in over your head, kid." But Elijah was quick. He pivoted and with a flick of his wrist unleashed a blinding flash from the coin. The room was engulfed in light, shimmering and warping like a mirage. Martin shielded his eyes, feeling a blast of heat wash over him. When the light receded, everything changed. Martin staggered back, gasping in disbelief. The stranger was now on the ground, but he wasn't just defeated. He was crumpling like a paper doll. "No," Martin wheeled, his stomach churning. "What did you do?" The man writhed, his form shifting, morphing into something grotesque and unsettling. "You think you've won?" he croaked, but his voice was hollow, like a distant echo. "This is only the beginning." Then came the revelation. With an uncanny movement, the stranger's face twisted into Elijah's likeness, their features merging seamlessly. Martin's breath caught in his throat, and he staggered back, eyes wide. "What?" Elijah laughed, and it was a cold, haunting sound. "The truth? This coin binds our fates. You see, I'm more than just a boy. I'm a part of this, a piece you can't fully grasp." Martin's world spun. Everything he thought he knew crumbled. "Are you saying you're—" "Yes." Elijah's voice thundered, echoing through the café. "I'm your brother." The weight of those words hit Martin like a truck. "No," he gasped, shaking his head, clutching at his temples as if to block the revelation. "That's impossible." "It's true," Elijah hissed. "We were separated, lost, each to our own paths. But the coin, it's a beacon, a key to unveiling the threads of our shared past." Martin's heart raced faster than ever, at war with itself. He had a brother, a twin, a dark legacy he never asked for. The truth felt like shards of glass in his mind, cutting and fierce. In that moment, the ground shuddered again. The walls pulsed like a living thing, vibrant with energy that crackled around them. "We have to move," Elijah shouted, urgency seeping into his voice. "They're coming." "Who's coming?" Martin hollered, confused and terrified. But before Elijah could answer, the cafe doors burst open with a violent clang. Figures cloaked in darkness flooded in, eyes gleaming with intent. They surrounded them, their murmurs crawling over Martin's skin like an unwelcome chill. "Run!" Elijah yelled, grasping Martin's wrist, pulling him toward chaos. "Trust me." And as they dashed toward the flickering portal, Martin couldn't shake the overwhelming question. Which side was Elijah really on? Martin felt the surge of energy as Elijah pulled him forward, the chaos of the cafe swirling around them. The darkness seemed alive, hungry for them, clawing at the edges of his sanity. They dashed towards the portal, a swirling mass of light and shadows, the air thick with tension. "Quick!" Elijah shouted, urgency pulsing in his voice. "We have to get through." But the cloaked figures were closing in, their eyes glinting with malice. Martin's heart hammered in his chest, panic rising. "What about them?" he gasped, glancing back. "Forget them," Elijah yelled, his grip tightening on Martin's wrist. "We need to escape." The portal flickered ahead, shining like a beacon in a storm. Martin fought against the fear gripping his throat, moments of doubt flashing in his mind. They were almost there, just a few more steps. Suddenly, everything erupted in a shockwave. A deafening roar filled the room, like thunder cracking overhead. The portal pulsed violently, and Martin felt a heat wave wash over him. He staggered, almost losing his balance. Then, just as inexplicably as it had begun, the chaos stopped. The cafe, the shadows, everything froze in. A moment of eerie silence. Martin turned, his breath caught in his throat. Elijah stood there, the coin hovering between them, glowing with an unnatural light. But as Martin looked closer, a terrible realization sprawled across his face. It wasn't just glowing. It was pulsating. "Look out!" Martin shouted, instinct warning him. But it was too late. The coin exploded with a blinding flash, and Martin felt himself being yanked backward. The world around him shattered like glass, and a new reality burst forth. As the brilliance dimmed, Martin found himself standing in a vast, desolate landscape. The café was gone. Instead, he stood on a barren field under a stormy sky that crackled with energy. He squinted, trying to understand what just happened. Where was Elijah? Martin, a familiar voice echoed through the empty air, sending shivers down his spine. He turned, his heart racing. A figure materialized, standing tall amidst the swirling winds. It was his mother, but something was off. She looked older, weary, her eyes filled with a haunting sorrow. "You've come," she said softly, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "Mom?" Martin gasped, his heart leaping in surprise and fear. "What are you doing here?" "Martin, you need to listen," she said urgently, stepping closer. "Elijah, he's not who you think he is." "What do you mean?" His voice wavered. "He's my brother, isn't he?" "No." The words sliced through the air like a knife, filled with panic. He's a monster, Martin, made from the darkness we tried to escape." Martin's reality twisted. The truth crashed down around him, filling him with dread. "But he has the coin. He told me it's our connection." She shook her head, despair etched on her features. "No, it binds you to him. It was never meant for you." The ground beneath them shuddered, voices rising from the shadows surrounding them, whispers of betrayal clawing at his mind. "Mom, what did you do?" he shouted, the weight of her revelation crashing into him like the force of a tidal wave. "Everything I did was to protect you." Her sadness twisted into something fierce. "But that coin, it was created to bind him to this world, and now he knows everything." Rays of light split the horizon, blinding him as the echoes of the café faded away. Elijah's face flashed before him, fierce and transformed, the last remnants of innocence long gone. Then a jarring realization struck him. He was trapped in a game that far surpassed any of his expectations. And the stakes, they were much higher than he could ever imagine. He looked back into his mother's eyes. "I need to stop him," he said, determination rising in his chest. But even as the words left him, doubt lingered like a shadow. Was that still possible? A fierce wind howled as the dark figures loomed ever closer on the horizon. The battle had only just begun, and Martin stood at the edge of chaos, unsure of who to trust. What was happening? Where did loyalty truly lie? In that whirlwind of betrayal, one thought rang clear in his mind. He had to find Elijah before it was too late. But could he face the brother he thought he knew? Martin stood frozen, his mother's revelation echoing in the air. "Elijah is a monster?" The words felt heavy, filling his chest with a sense of dread he couldn't shake. The shadows around him seemed to pulse, hungry and waiting, as Martin looked deep into his mother's eyes, searching for answers. "I never wanted you to know," she continued, urgency spilling from her voice. "He's been using you, drawing on the connection of blood. The coin is a conduit, a lure. You can't trust him." But how could he not? Elijah, the boy he had met just hours ago, now claimed as his brother, felt like a part of him. Before he could respond, the ground trembled, rattling the world around him. The cloaked figures were closer now, the air thick with impending doom. "Martin," his mother shouted, snapping him from his thoughts. "We have to move. There's no time." He turned, ready to follow, but something pulled at the back of his mind. Elijah wasn't just a boy. He was a force. The connection they shared was heavier than blood. It was destiny, tied to every secret locked away in their past. "Wait," he screamed, desperation clawing at him. "What if he's not the monster? What if this is a mistake?" "You don't know him," she cried, stepping forward, fear etched on her face. "He's controlled by darkness." But the words turned to vapor in the wind as the shadows closed in. Martin felt his heart race, adrenaline pumping through him. "I have to find him." He spun, searching the vast, bleak landscape, eyes darting between forms. "Stop. You need to listen," his mother yelled, desperation in her tone. Just then the dark figures began weaving closer. Their whispers filled the air, chilling his spine. Martin took a step back, heart pounding. I have to know. What's he planning? Suddenly a deafening crack split the air, and the clouds above roared with thunder. The figures shifted, and Martin's breath caught in his throat. They were no longer merely shadows, but beings of solid darkness. Their eyes blazed with malevolence. Martin! A voice boomed from behind him. He turned to see Elijah, but something was very wrong. The confident boy he knew was gone. This Elijah was cloaked in shadows, power radiating from him like heat. You chose to listen to her. His voice carried an edge, a chilling presence. What are you? Martin stepped back, fear gripping him. I'm what you've been searching for, Elijah said, a smirk curling his lips that felt wrong, twisted. I am the key to everything. Is it any wonder you were never told the truth? Stop, Martin shouted, desperation clawing at him. What are you talking about? Your mother kept you blind to protect herself, Elijah hissed, and in an instant the winds howled as the shadows around him spun, enveloping the scene. But now it's time for you to wake up. With a snap of his fingers, a fissure tore across the skies, and blinding light streamed down like fire. Martin raised his arms, instinctively, shielding himself. But through the chaos, he saw something that froze his blood. His mother behind him was no longer his mother. Her form began to shift, the image collapsing like a deck of cards. No, he whispered, horror wrapping around him. The transformation revealed a dark entity, a flicker of pure malice in its eyes. You've been deceived, Martin, the creature hissed, a twisted smile stretching on its face. You think you've escaped me, don't you? The shadows crept around Martin, tightening like a noose. He gasped, realization crashing into him. You're not my mother, are you? No, dear child, it sneered, the voice twisted into something he didn't recognize. I'm the one who created our world of secrets. You're just a pawn in the game. The ground shook again, and with it, the reality around him splintered. Martin's heart raced as he felt a fragment of his own power surge at his fingertips. I will stop. You, he shouted, defiance igniting within him. Elijah's shadowy grin widened, dangerously bright. Then let the game begin, he said, and in that heartbeat, the boundaries between light and dark blurred utterly. As shadows surged forward, Martin felt the pull of fate tighten around him. What was he truly a part of? Trust had crumbled, relationships twisted into something unrecognizable. And in that moment of chaos, he knew only one thing. He had to fight and find the truth before he lost everything. Then, the ground cracked wide open, and everything dissolved into a swirl of darkness. Martin's scream echoed as he fell into the abyss. Martin's scream echoed in the void, swallowed by the darkness. He felt himself falling. Not just downward, falling through all the memories he couldn't catch. All the lies and the truths swirling around him like smoke. The world fractured and reformed around him, shadows spinning in a chaotic dance as he spiraled deeper. Suddenly, an explosion of light snapped him upright, gasping. He wasn't alone. A figure stood there, wreathed in a radiant glow. It was his mother again, but not quite the same. The harshness of the shadows melted away, revealing her true form, bathed in a haunting brilliance. Martin, she cried, urgency brimming in her voice. You must listen, there's no time. He blinked, disoriented. You were just the darkness, he stammered. She shook her head fiercely. No, that was a manipulation. You need to remember the truth. The coin, it's not just a key. It contains a part of your father's spirit, a spirit bound to ensure you both never come together. The revelation struck him like a thunderbolt. What? He felt unmoored, something vital shoving against the edges of his sanity. But Elijah isn't your brother by blood, she interrupted, the desperation bubbling over. He's a created vessel, designed to break you. You are tied to him. Yes, but only through a dark pact that was forged to fracture this family, to control you. The shadows roared, vibrating through the air. Martin could feel the ground shifting underfoot, trembling like it was alive. Just then, a figure erupted from the darkness. It was Elijah again, but he was different, consumed by shadows, as if he were one with the darkness. "You listened to her lies," he snarled, the venom drenching his words. "She tried to bury the truth all this time." "Truth!" Martin shouted, struggling to find his footing. "What truth? What are you?" Elijah's expression twisted into a malevolent grin. "I am the manifestation of what you fear most, the power your parents kept hidden." "No!" Martin yelled, shaking his head, trying to push back the dread crawling into his heart. But Elijah's laugh echoed, serving as a snare around his soul. "Why do you think you've never felt whole? You've wandered, searching for a peace that doesn't exist." Elijah's voice was a wail, like a siren, pulling the air from Martin's lungs. "Your father sealed your fate long ago." "What fate?" Martin felt the air growing thin. "Your true family is not bound by blood, but by darkness and power. You have potential that your mother tried to drown in lies." Elijah flicked his wrist, and the shadows surged forward, dark tendrils reaching for Martin. "Martin," his mother shouted, urgency pulsing through every word. "You're not trapped. You have the power to fight." But as Martin felt the cold fingers of shadows creep closer, a surge of energy sparked inside him, an electric rage. He hadn't come this far to let everything collapse. Then came the shocking twist, as Martin strained against the encroaching darkness. Something deep within him shifted and burst open. An emotional wave rushed through, connecting him to the memories long buried. Childhood laughter, a father's warmth, deep secrets of family lost. "Everything you thought you knew about all of this," he whispered, conviction spilling from his lips. "It's not just about you and me, Elijah. It's about the choices we must face. I will not be a pawn anymore." In that moment, Martin felt empowerment surging within him. The shadows retreated, hissed, ripped like fabric unraveling. He stood firm, chest heaving, heart alive with the fire of defiance. Suddenly, the ground split open right beneath Elijah, a chasm erupting like a wound in the earth. "No!" Elijah screamed, teetering on the brink, and with a final tone of desperation, he reached out. "You can't do this. We are connected." But Martin's determination blazed brighter. "Not anymore." And just like that, a final surge of energy erupted. The world around them shattered into a million pieces, a kaleidoscope of colors and realities folding in on themselves. But as the darkness pulled Elijah down, Martin was left standing at the edge of a new truth. A connection severed, yet a new doorway opened. Elijah had been universal darkness, true, but what was Martin now? He felt a profound shift within, a terrible weight and exhilarating light tangled together. What came next? The shadows still loomed, and he could hear whispers creeping from the unknown. Then, as the dust settled from the chaos, an understanding dawned upon Martin. Everything they knew was merely a piece of a larger riddle waiting to unfold. What was the real story of his family? Where would this path lead him now? And did he really have the power to reshape it all? His heart pounded, and as a chilling laugh echoed from the depths, Elijah's laughter, victorious and taunting, one question crystallized in his mind. Was he truly free to forge his own destiny, or was he still trapped in the twisted game of fate? Martin steadied himself, the shadows I had just banished, still whispering at the edges of his mind. The laughter of Elijah echoed in his ears, a taunt, layered with a promise of chaos. He felt a rush of adrenaline. This was his moment to reclaim his life, to break free from the cycle of darkness and betrayal. But as he thought he gained the upper hand, a cold shiver skittered down his spine. He could feel Elijah's presence lingering, a force tethered to shadows that refused to dim. With every pulse of energy, doubts flickered in his mind. Was it truly over? What if Elijah could still come back, stronger than before? "Martin?" A voice shouted, snapping him back to reality. It was his mother, radiant yet trembling. "We need to get away from here before it's not safe." He turned to her, desperation raging in his chest. "What do you mean? Where's Elijah? I have to." But before he could finish, the horizon rippled like a mirage. The shadows coalesced, and suddenly everything warped. A surge of energy blasted through the air, knocking them both to the ground. The café backdrop dissolved, replaced by a dark realm filled with jagged black cliffs and a red, burning sky. Where are we?" he gasped, struggling to his feet. "I don't know," his mother replied, her voice trembling. "But whatever it is, it's coming." And then they saw it. A figure emerged from the shadows, walking deliberately toward them. Heart racing, Martin squinted against the dim light. The contours of the face emerged, familiar yet twisted. It was Elijah, but this was something else entirely. His form flickered, splitting into two, and then three. The air crackled as three versions of Elijah stood before them, shadows twisting around them like smoke. "Did you think you could escape?" they chanted in unison, voices intertwining in a haunting discord. Martin looked at his mother in shock. "This doesn't make sense. There can't be three of him." "Three?" she echoed, fear painting her features. "No, it's something worse. He's multiplying." Elijah stepped forward, a dark smile spreading across his face, eyes glinting with menace. "I'm not just one, Martin. I am everything you fear, all that you'll ever be. And soon." He lifted his arm, dark energy coiling around him like a serpent. "You will be a part of this too. You can't fight what you truly are." In that moment, the ground trembled once more. A deep rumbling echoed around them, and as if it had been waiting for this signal, the landscape shifted again. The darkness wavered, revealing a collage of memories. Scenes through Martin's life flipped by like an old film reel, and it struck him. A terrible realization erupting like a geyser. "No," he breathed, horror dawning. "This is all I've ever known." But the Elijahs laughed, their voices now a guttural cacophony. "Yes, you've always been part of this darkness, drawn to it like a moth to a flame. You had to save me, didn't you? You had to know." His lungs felt heavy. "No, this isn't true." His hands trembled, anger welling in him like a tidal wave. But as the last ghostly images faded, an infuriating understanding settled in. He wasn't just fighting against Elijah. He was fighting against himself. And just when Martin thought he'd grasped the truth, something shifted amid the chaos. Out of the shadows, a surprising figure emerged, a familiar face he had never expected to see. It was his father, the one he'd believed lost to time, a ghost lingering in his memories. "Dad?" Martin could barely whisper. "Martin," his father said, stepping forward, his voice soft yet firm. "It's time to reclaim your true legacy." "What do you mean?" Martin's stomach twisted. Everything he had believed ebbed away. "It was never just Elijah," his father continued, a look of sorrow in his eyes. "It's you. You are the key, the nexus for the darkness. Break it before it consumes you." The weight of those words hit like a strike of lightning. Martin stood paralyzed, reality shattering all around him. "But I thought I was." "No," his father insisted, voice rising, urgency lacing every syllable. "You are more than what they want you to believe. You have the power to choose your own fate." Elijah's voice sneered in the background, the unified darkness twisting everything they held dear. "Choose? What do you know of choice, dear brother? You belong with me. As..." Martin grappled with the chaos swirling in his mind. The oppressive truth warred with the glimmer of hope. A decision stood before him, life-changing, terrifying. Would he choose the darkness he had always known, or venture into the uncertain light, ready to break free and fight for what was right? The shadows surged, and he felt gravity shift as everything spiraled out of control. He gasped, breath hitching. Which path would he take? And as he stared into his father's eyes, a terrifying question loomed. Could he truly accept that his own essence was shadowed in darkness, and to face that was to claim his destiny? The winds howled as the truth unraveled. Everything he thought he knew was about to change forever. Martin stood, heart pounding, staring into the swirling chaos of realities. His mother's figure shimmered, but Elijah's presence loomed darkly, splitting into 3 menacing reflections. For a fleeting second, hope sparked in him, ignited by his father's words, an anchor in this storm of confusion. "Stop!" he shouted, flinging his arms wide. "I won't be a part of this anymore. I choose my own fate." The Elijahs laughed, a sound tinged with madness. "Choose? You think you have power? You're still rooted in fear. Your father hid everything from you." The air crackled. Shadows surged forward, reaching with tendrils of darkness, filling every corner of this fractured world. Martin felt a knot tighten in his chest, a familiar sensation of dread that clawed at him. He could feel his memories, the whispers of pain, the feeling of betrayal that shaped his childhood. "Martin," his mother urged, eyes wide with worry, "you must resist. Don't let him warp your mind." But just as the weight of every word sank in, the ground shook violently. Cracks webbed across the earth, a churning echo of a hidden turmoil. The shadows merged, twisting and writhing, until a beam of blinding light pierced through the chaos. And in that brilliance, everything changed. "No!" Elijah screamed, his 3 forms flickering like dying flames. The light expanded, shimmering until it engulfed Martin entirely. It was overwhelming, blinding him, scorching away the darkness. Then, silence. The light receded, and Martin found himself on his knees, gasping. The landscape was different, calm, bright, and colorful. He looked around, confusion swirling inside him. Was it a dream? His mother knelt beside him, tears glistening in her eyes. "You did it, Martin," she breathed. "You broke the connection." But before Martin could respond, a sharp scream echoed from behind them. He turned, and his stomach plummeted. Elijah stood at the edge of the brightness, shrouded in shadows. But this time, something was different. The darkness clawed away, revealing something unsettling. His features warped, flickering as if he were a mirage. "Did you think it was that easy?" Elijah spat, but his voice sounded fractured, like shards of glass. "You don't know the truth." "What are you talking about?" Martin yelled, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he stood, defiance hardening his stance. "It's not just me," Elijah hissed, eyes narrowing. "You think you're free? You're still tied to me, tied by blood. You're only seeing what I want you to see." "Blood?" Martin's heart raced as dread crept back. "What are you saying?" "Elijah's not the only one here," a voice echoed from the shadows. A figure stepped forward, someone he never expected to see. A girl. The shock hit him. This wasn't just any girl. It was his sister. "You've always had a sister," she said, voice cold yet familiar. "You just never remembered." "No," Martin gasped. "This can't be. I don't have a sister." "Yet here I am," she smiled, a twist of malice in her demeanor. "With powers you didn't know you possess. You're part of us, Martin. You always have been." Everything he thought he understood crumbled like sand. Memories surged of a family he never knew, of ties hidden in shadows. "No, I won't accept this." Elijah smirked, a cruel satisfaction dancing in his eyes. "You can't fight it. This is who you are. A legacy of darkness and power. You think the light saved you? It only led you back to us. Join us," his sister urged, stepping closer, a haunting allure in her tone. "Together, we can unleash everything." The ground swelled again, shadows contorting, the world bending with raw energy. Martin felt the pull, a magnetism that sparked his fear and fury. "This isn't happening," he shouted, determination surging through him. "I refuse to become what you want." But would he really have a choice? As they closed in, darkness swelled, shadows creeping relentlessly, all spiraling faster than his ability to grasp the tide of truth. Who was he really? And as the shadows flickered, Martin realized the war was just beginning. But at what cost? The shadows flickered and undulated, a cacophony of dark whispers threatening to engulf Martin completely. He felt the tumult of emotions crashing over him, fear, anger, but also a glimmer of resolve. "You're wrong. I won't be a pawn in your game," he shouted, grounding himself as Elijah and his sister loomed closer, eyes gleaming with dark intentions. Martin's heart thundered in his chest, a primal urge rising within him. He could feel the heavy weight of secrets and betrayal pressing down, but alongside that weight was a spark of his father's spirit, his voice echoing in his mind. "You have the power to choose your own fate." "Father," he called out, weaving that strength into his words. Suddenly, memories surged around him, illuminating the shadows. He saw glimpses of joy, laughter, and a sense of belonging that tightly knitted his will. "I choose to create my own path." As he spoke, the air thickened, charged with a momentum of hope, an electric pulse igniting something. Deep in the core of his being, the Elijahs hesitated for a moment, confusion washing over their faces. They weren't prepared for his defiance. They were moments away from taking his spirit. But in that fleeting stillness, Martin wielded that newfound power. He reached deep within himself, focusing on the connection he held with his true family. And he unleashed it. Flames of light erupted from his core, a brilliant swirl that enveloped him, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. "Enough!" he bellowed, as the light surged outward, piercing through the darkness. His mother's figure shimmered beside him, arms reaching out in solidarity. "Together," she shouted, and the light became a blinding beacon, repelling the chaos. Elijah's twisted grin faltered, the shadows receding as the light engulfed them all. "No, you can't do this," he screeched, panic carving lines across his face. Then, with one final surge, the darkness imploded outward, crumbling under the intensity of their light. The air crackled and roared, and Martin felt a gaping void beneath him. For a breathless moment, he feared he might be swallowed whole. Then, silence. Martin stumbled back into consciousness, bright sunlight washing over him. The café reformed around him, the clinking of cups and soft jazz floating in the air once more. The shadows were gone, replaced by a sense of quiet calm. "Is this real?" he breathed, looking around. His heart ached to see life returning to its normal flow. Patrons chatting instead of shrieking in terror. "Martin," his mother exclaimed, stepping forward, her eyes filled with pride and relief. "You did it." Elijah's dark presence had vanished, but a weight lingered in Martin's chest. "What about him? He's still out there." "Perhaps," his mother said softly, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "But you've reclaimed your legacy. You've chosen light over darkness, and that's a victory worth celebrating." "Did he really intend to hurt us, to control us?" Martin's words trembled in the air, still clinging to the remnants of doubt. She nodded, the gravity of the moment enveloping them. "Yes, it was always about power, but you have the strength to surpass that. We stand united now." Tears pricked his eyes, a mix of relief and sorrow flooding through him. "I thought I lost you both." "Never," she reassured him. "We're free to decide our futures now." As they embraced, warmth spread through Martin. The chaos was behind him, shadows no longer dictating his life. He stepped back, feeling the pulse of possibility before him, and for the first time, he saw a way forward. "Where do we go from here?" he asked, a spark of optimism igniting within. His mother smiled, wiping away her tears. "Wherever we choose, together." As they moved towards the café door, ready to embrace a brighter tomorrow, Martin felt the weight of the world lift, replaced by a sense of endless possibilities. Though shadows would always linger in the recesses, the light shone brighter, illuminating the path ahead. But before you dive into your next adventure, here's the moment to act. You have to subscribe right now to ensure you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comment section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. What do you think was next for Martin? And don't wait even one more second. to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your support makes a world of difference, and only real fans understand just how important it is. So important. And only real fans understand just how important it is.